guys, Dr. Rob Barrington here with some more nutrition advice. I want to talk about the greatest lie that's ever been told in nutrition, and that lie is the lie that weight gain is caused by overeating. Most people, if you ask them, if you stop them on the street, most people will tell you that if you eat too much food or you don't perform enough physical activity, you will cause weight gain, and you will get fat. And if you are already fat and you decrease the amount of food that you consume and you increase the amount of physical activity, that will cause weight loss. This is the greatest lie that's ever been told in nutrition. It's a lie that is continually repeated. It's a lie. It's become a mantra. It's become a meme. Most people believe it to be true, but unfortunately, I believe that the nutritional literature doesn't support that contention. And I also believe, from my anecdotal experience of what I've experienced in the last 20 years or so of studying nutrition and of applying nutrition to real life situations, that it really is not true at all. In order to be able to understand why this is so widely believed to be a truth, it's really important to understand that disinformation is often required in order to be able to sell products, in order to be able to make money. And if you follow the money in a lot of this, you find that it ends up in the large corporations. This lie has been perpetuated by the corporations, the food manufacturers, the people that want you to be unhealthy. So that also includes many of the companies that sell healthcare. There's no interest, for example, to healthcare providers to have a population of healthy people, because they supply solutions to diseases once those diseases have developed. If you avoid those diseases, clearly all of those companies go out of business. And food manufacturers are not really there to make you healthy. They're not interested in your health. They're there to sell their products, and their products are often highly addictive foods with high sugar content, and those foods are the very foods that will actually make you fat. So really, you need to, like with everything, the disinformation. If you follow the money, you find the originators of this disinformation, and they're very powerful. They have a lot of money, and they spend a lot of money on advertising, and they spend a lot of money buying the media and putting this mantra into the mainstream in order so that really everybody believes it. And as with all disinformation, there's always a small amount of truth scattered in with the lies, which makes it believable. And it's very difficult to actually convince people that it's not overeating and it's not a lack of exercise that actually causes weight gain. But if we have a look at the theory that it's this energy balance mismatch that causes weight gain, what really the theory is saying is that you have an energy intake and you have also a way of expending that energy. And there are two ways of expending that energy. You can expend that energy through your resting metabolic rate, which is the amount of energy you require just to be able to allow your cells to function normally. And then on top of that, you also have a physical activity component, and it's this balance between the energy intake, the food that you eat, and your physical activity and your resting energy expenditure that actually determines your weight. If you have too much food intake, in other words, if your energy intake is too high and your physical activity is too low, the theory suggests that you will over time accumulate weight, and this is the cause of weight gain. On the other hand, if you increase your physical activity and reduce your energy intake, this means that you will actually start to use stored energy in order to be able to satisfy your energy needs, and that will cause weight loss. And on the surface, when we look at this, it seems very believable, and this is really what most people believe, and this is the basis of most mainstream diets. This is the theory that is in most dietitian textbooks. It's in the theory that's in most nutrition textbooks. It's the theory that's in most medical textbooks, but really it's not supported by the evidence in the nutritional literature, and it's certainly not supported by what we see around us anecdotally. Now, I'm going to break this down, and we're going to talk about what actually causes weight gain, and therefore what actually causes weight loss. You have to understand that the energy balance equation is often supported by the contention that this is required in order to be able to maintain thermodynamics. Obviously, you cannot create or destroy energy, and therefore your energy intake has to balance with your energy outtake. Your energy output, and that is true. And what many people don't understand, though, is that the trick in this lie is that the component that is often forgotten is your resting metabolic rate. The emphasis is given to the food component, the energy that you consume, and it's given to the physical activity. But the forgotten component is the component that is actually your resting energy expenditure, and this can actually account for quite a lot of your total energy needs. And the important thing to understand is that your hypothalamus, your brain, is able to regulate how much energy you waste and how much energy is put into that component. And by ignoring that component, the lie becomes believable because it's supported supposedly by thermodynamics, and you can measure the energy input and you can measure the energy output, and they have to balance, otherwise you will have to gain weight. But these other components are forgotten. They're forgotten on purpose because they destroy this theory, and I'm going to break this down and explain why that is. So in order to be able to understand what causes weight gain, what we have to do is look at a normal healthy person and determine why they are able to maintain a stable body weight. If we take a normal person, that person doesn't know how much energy they require at a particular meal in order to be able to give themselves the energy they require for their activities. And that's partly because they really don't know what activities they're going to perform. It could be that they have to run for the bus and they weren't anticipating that. They don't know how much energy they require for their resting metabolic rate. And this is why they have regulatory mechanisms that are inherent in their physiology. Their brain is able to tell them when they've had enough food and when not to eat any more. Now, even with these regulatory mechanisms and all these hormones and neurotransmitters and negative feedback loops, it's still possible to overeat at a single sitting. Now, for example, if a normal person eating a high-quality diet overconsumed food at a single meal, the information that is given to the brain about how much energy was consumed is analysed, and that person subsequently at a later meal would possibly not eat so much. And this is because the body is perfectly capable, the brain is able to regulate appetite. So if you overconsume at one meal, the chances are your appetite will be down-regulated for the next meal, and your body will compensate so that over the course of a week you consume the amount of energy that you require. And your brain has very complex sampling mechanisms to be able to determine the amount of glucose that you have, the amount of fat stores that you have, the amount of protein, the amount of nitrogen that you've consumed, and it uses these feedback loops and its analytical ability in order to be able to maintain your energy balance. And this works very well. If you underconsume at a particular meal, for example, if you don't eat enough, your body will increase your hunger levels, and it will allow you to overconsume at the next meal in order to be able to compensate. And this energy can, over the long term, although there are fluctuations in the amount of energy that will be consumed, this will be ironed out over the long term, and your body weight will stay stable. There are other mechanisms that your body has, and they relate to physical activity. So, for example, if you start to overconsume energy, your body can increase your resting metabolic rate, which will waste energy, and your body temperature will go up, for example. And if you do overconsume energy at a particular meal, you'll feel hot and your energy expenditure will increase. Your body is perfectly capable of releasing adrenaline and other catecholamine hormones, and they will increase your resting metabolic rate, which will waste some of the energy as heat. And all of these compensatory mechanisms are able to iron out these fluctuations that we have over time in the consumption of our food. And this is part of the theory of the energy balance hypothesis. But what the energy balance hypothesis, what the mainstream hypothesis of weight gain says, is that that is it. There's nothing else to this component. It's simply if you completely overconsume and you eat too much food, this provides too much energy, and therefore you accumulate weight gain. But I don't believe that's true, because if you eat a high quality diet, it's very difficult to actually overconsume food. If you eat anyone that's at a very high quality diet, it's high in fibre, it's actually very difficult to overconsume food. The problem comes when we start to consume a Western diet, and this is the pivotal thing that is missed by most people. A high quality diet, high in fibre, high in plant foods, high in plant protein, high in protein generally, high in high quality foods with all the micronutrients is actually very difficult to overeat. Your body is very, very good at maintaining a correct appetite and at maintaining a correct metabolic rate and maintaining your physical activity levels in order to be able to maintain your weight. However, this breaks down when you start to consume a Western diet, and this is the pivotal point. This is the point that's never told. It's never told to the population by the food manufacturers. It's never told to the population by the governments. It's never told by healthcare. It's because this is the secret that would cause people to understand what's actually going on. When we consume a Western diet, we shift the types of foods that we eat, and we stop eating high quality foods that we're supposed to eat, that are in balance with our physiologies. And what we actually do is we consume processed foods. And these foods have a detrimental effect on our metabolism. They actually detrimentally affect these regulatory mechanisms we have in order to be able to maintain stable body weights. The biggest problem with the Western diet is sugar, refined carbohydrates and sugar. They cause detrimental glycemic effects, and these detrimental glycemic effects are caused because they lead to insulin resistance. And insulin resistance is really the pivotal thing that needs to be understood. When we consume a Western diet and we have an intake of sugar, that sugar contains fructose. That fructose causes insulin resistance. It goes into the liver, it's converted into fatty acids, it overloads the cells with energy, and as a response, the cells become resistant to insulin, which pushes the blood sugar levels up. Now, there are many metabolic effects that occur secondary to insulin resistance. Once insulin resistance is developed because of consuming sugar, there are other metabolic effects that happen, and these metabolic effects include effects in the brain, and the hypothalamus can become insensitive to other hormones such as leptin, which affects appetite regulation. And this is the thing that causes weight gain. It's not overeating per se, it's overeating the wrong types of foods, and in particular overeating sugar. And really, any sugar is overeating sugar, but people eat large amounts of it. And soft drinks are particularly damaging because they're a very concentrated form of sugar that can be consumed in a very short amount of time. And it's that sugar, that concentrated form of sugar in a liquid form, that gets into the system very quickly, that overloads the cells with energy, that causes insulin resistance, that leads to other metabolic effects. And this is really what you need to understand, that weight gain is a symptom of a metabolic dysfunction. It's not a normal physiological effect. There are changes in your body weight as you in a normal healthy person. There would be changes in a body weight, and body fat levels would change, but they would change marginally. If you overconsume for a period of time, it will take a while for the body to react to that and increase your resting metabolic rate and allow your adaptive processes to occur. If you overconsume the wrong types of foods, sugars, you cause this metabolic dysfunction, and the body is unable to react. The body is unable to regulate, for example, appetite correctly, because the hypothalamus has leptin resistance, and therefore the hypothalamus has no clue as to how big the body fat stores are. In fact, the hypothalamus actually believes, based on the signal it's getting being very weak, that body fat stores are low, and therefore it can actually stimulate appetite. So really, the body is in a state of dysfunction. It's in a state of disease. So when you start to gain weight beyond the normal fluctuations in weight that a normal person's body weight may fluctuate by a few pounds, 4 or 5 pounds, something like that. It'll go up and down depending on levels of physical activity or whatever they're doing. But generally, most people's body weight stays stable. When you go outside of that type of small fluctuation, and you start putting multiple pounds on stones, this is when you realize that you have a metabolic dysfunction. It is nothing to do with normal regulatory mechanisms being, extremes of normal regulatory mechanisms. It's actually to do with actually having a metabolic dysfunction. And this is what causes weight gain. And therefore, you can't cause weight loss simply by reducing your energy intake, because to cause the weight loss after you have developed a metabolic dysfunction, you have to reverse that metabolic dysfunction. And this is why in many of my videos I keep saying that in order to be able to lose weight, you have to eat a high quality diet. Cutting calories, calorie counting doesn't work, and that's simply because most people cut calories, they count calories, they reduce the amount of the poor quality foods they're eating, but they're still eating poor quality foods, and therefore they still have an underlying metabolic dysfunction which prevents them ultimately losing weight. They may lose some weight, yes. Most diets will work for a short amount of time because you do actually reduce the amount of the detrimental foods you're consuming. If you're, for example, if you halve the amount of sugar that you're eating because you simply consume less of it, theoretically you will lose some weight because you're reducing the metabolic toxin that's causing the problem is actually being reduced, but you're still going to maintain an underlying inherent damage to your metabolism. You have to eliminate the sugar and eat a high quality diet in order to be able to reverse what is causing these metabolic problems, which is the insulin resistance, and that is the pivotal point. It's reversing the insulin resistance that will then allow you to lose weight naturally. And once that insulin resistance starts to reverse because you're eating a high quality diet, the body weight your body weight will naturally go back to its normal set point. The hypothalamus will start to regulate itself correctly again because it will increase its sensitivity to leptin. The cells will start to oxidize fuels correctly again because they won't be insulin resistant, and your blood glucose levels will go down, your blood pressure will go down, the lipids that have been accumulating in your liver that have been causing an increase in cholesterol levels in your blood, they will return to normal, and all of the symptoms that we call the metabolic syndrome, all of these metabolic problems that we associate with obesity, they will all actually return to within the normal physiological range. The other problem with eating Western foods is that Western foods like sugar they have a drug-like activity, and this drug-like activity means that you're even more likely to overconsume them. And this is very damaging because this leads to the nutrient overload syndrome. And consuming too much energy in a single sitting, for example in soft drinks, where they're in a liquid form and they're very easy to overconsume, this floods the body with energy, and this energy is unable to be oxidized, it's unable to be stored correctly, and so the body goes into a syndrome where it has to do something with this excess energy. Much of the energy is pushed down pathways to produce fatty acids, which makes insulin resistance worse, and a lot of the energy ends up in cells. The cells, as a result, have too much energy. They start to oxidize this energy, which produces free radicals. These free radicals then deplete the antioxidants in the cells, and as a response, the cell downregulates the insulin receptor further in order to prevent any more energy getting into the cells, and this therefore is another cause of insulin resistance. So eating too much food in a single sitting is very damaging, and this is very much more likely if you're eating low quality foods, because sugar acts like a drug. Sugar is addictive. Sugar is, and many of these, high fat, high sugar foods, they're very, very palatable, and they are physically addictive. You can get addicted to sugar. Your body will, if some people actually seek out sugar, they will try and consume sugar, and there has been a number of studies that have looked at the sugar consumption of animals and then analysed brain tissue and shown that many of the changes that occur in the brain would be the changes that you would expect to occur if addictive drugs had been taken. So there is evidence from animal studies that these types of foods are actually physically addictive. They tend to be the types of foods that you would eat at fast food restaurants, high in fat, high in sugar, very little fibre, high amounts of energy. You obviously can generally consume them with soft drinks, large containers of soft drinks, which supplies more sugar, and this is really a major problem in terms of causing weight gain. So weight loss is not going to occur simply by reducing calories. It's not going to be caused by simply reducing the energy intake and increasing the physical activity. if you took somebody that was unhealthy, that somebody had an illness, and you said, well, you'll be able to reverse that illness if you just do some more physical activity, that would seem absurd, because all you're going to do, the physical activity, is just going to give this person more stress. Their body's already in a state of disease. Their body is already in a state of stress. You get them going out and doing lots of physical activity, that will possibly make the disease worse. What you actually have to do is cure the disease to allow their body to be healthy, and then they will go out and perform physical activity. And there's no difference to weight loss. If you have gained a lot of weight, if you're a couple of stone overweight, you've got metabolic dysfunction, you've been eating a poor quality diet, if you try and force your body to lose weight by performing physical activity, and you think, well, if I train hard enough, I can cause my body to lose weight, it's not going to work, because your body is in a state of metabolic dysfunction. It's not functioning properly. Your hormonal systems are in a state of dysfunction. Your neurotransmitter systems will be in a state of dysfunction. There will be all sorts of metabolic problems. The last thing the body needs in that state is hard physical activity, which causes a major stress on top of it. What you really need to do is reverse those metabolic problems to be able to allow the body to function properly, and then you'll probably find that you'll actually want to go out and do physical activity, because your energy levels will return. As soon as all of these systems are working properly, like I say, if you go back to the healthy individual, their body weights are regulated normally within our physiological ranges, but that only works if you're eating high quality foods that we're supposed to eat. There's much discussion on what is a high quality diet, but and there are many diets around the world which I would state are high quality, and they're all very different, but they all share a number of factors, and one is that they don't contain sugar, they don't contain refined carbohydrates, they don't contain refined starches, and they don't contain trans fatty acids. They all have varying amounts of protein, fat and carbohydrate, but they all have unprocessed, unrefined foods as in their content. They all supply adequate micronutrients and vitamins to the people that eat them. And therefore, there is no such thing as a healthy, high-quality diet. There are a range of different diets that could be defined as healthy and high quality, but certainly any diet that is based on the Western diet is not a high-quality diet. It's a very low-quality diet. That diet causes dysfunction in your metabolism, and it's that dysfunction that causes weight gain. It's not overeating. And we've got to remember, with disinformation, there's always a small amount of truth in with the lies. And it's this small amount of truth about the amount of food that you eat that is actually what confuses most people. It's not the amount of food you eat, it's not overeating, it's overeating poor quality foods. It's that bit at the end, the poor quality foods, that is left off. Overeating causes weight gain. No, it's overeating poor quality foods that causes weight gain. I don't believe, and I've set this challenge up to many people, if you eat very, very bland foods, something like dry tuna from a tin with peas, it's very difficult to overeat those types of foods. If you say, right, I'm just going to eat dry tuna and peas, after a few meals, your body just doesn't want to eat much of that food. It will, when you're hungry, you can eat it, but your body is very quick to turn your appetite off. And a lot of fad diets are actually based on, eating single foods, simply because they're actually very difficult to overconsume. And this is just an extreme illustration of what I'm trying to talk about here. If you eat the wrong types of foods, very palatable foods, high in sugar, high in fat, not only is it very easy to overconsume them, but eating any of them will cause metabolic dysfunction, but over-consuming them will rapidly deteriorate your metabolism, and that will lead to serious weight gain and serious metabolic problems. And it's not just the weight gain, it's the associated disease that you get with that weight gain. You get an increase in cardiovascular risk, you get an increase in your risk of cancer, you get an increase in a risk of arthritis. All of the diseases of oxidation and oxidative stress, they will increase. They will have an pro-inflammatory state in your body, which is a recipe for getting Western lifestyle diseases. You have a much increased risk of getting type 2 diabetes. So it's very important to understand this, and I realise that I've talked about this before, and I've talked about weight gain before, but I just wanted to emphasize, because there are people, new subscribers to my channel that maybe haven't looked at some of my older videos, and I just wanted to emphasize that there is a lot of disinformation in nutrition. And I've always said the best nutritionists are the poorest nutritionists, because they give the advice that is free and obvious. And many people come to my channel and they leave comments and they've worked this out. Nutrition is actually very simple. You just have to eat foods that we're supposed to eat, and you have to eat high quality diet. And if you eat a high quality diet, many people will come onto my channel, leave comments and say, and show that they eat different types of foods. But generally, there's an overall theme that the types of foods they eat are always of high quality, and that they're always eating a high quality diet. And that diet may well vary, but they have realized that the basic nutritional advice is to eat high quality foods, and if you do, your health will look after itself and your body weight will look after itself. There's no need to constantly worry about how much you're eating, because you have perfectly acceptable appetite regulatory mechanisms that will do that for you. Your hypothalamus is designed, it's specifically there to make sure your body weight stays within this set point. It's only when you don't give it the correct materials, you don't give your body the correct materials to do its job properly, and this metabolic dysfunction develops, that you will actually gain weight. And it's very cheap and easy advice. So always look at who is, many people often say to me, I don't know which nutrition advice to take because we get so much advice. And my answer is always the same. Much of that advice is disinformation. Who is giving you that information? Is it a food manufacturer? Well, if it is, it's probably that they want to sell their foods. Is it a healthcare provider? If it is, well, it's in their interest for you to get disease so that they can provide you with an expensive solution and an expensive drug. Is it a government? If it's a government, they have no interest at all in your health whatsoever. And is it somebody selling supplements? And if it is, their information might be biased towards a business model that they have in order to be able to push a particular supplement. So be very careful who you get your information from, and make sure you get your information from somebody who's not got any inherent underlying agenda. Make sure that your information is checked out. Don't believe anything at face value. Please, don't believe anything I've said. Go and research it for yourself. There are many good nutrition journals that you can go and read, studies that have been done on weight loss. Most of the ones, when you start to read them, support what I'm saying. There's very few studies that I've found that actually don't support what this contention that I have, that it's actually the quality of the food. And more studies are being published to show that actually sugar is very detrimental to many metabolic to all metabolic regulation, and it is certainly, in my opinion, a metabolic poison, and it should really be in the same kind of category as alcohol. It possibly even more detrimental than alcohol, because alcohol does appear to have some beneficial effects at low intakes. I don't think there are any benefits from taking sugar, except for perhaps those people who are athletes that have performed incredible physical activity and are very depleted in energy. Sometimes sugar can be beneficial to those people, but really in a normal, healthy, high quality diet, sugar has no place, and increasingly the nutritional literature is showing this. So I hope that was interesting. That was just some thoughts I have on weight gain and weight loss, and what I believe is the biggest lie ever told in nutrition, that weight gain is caused by simply eating too much food and not performing enough physical activity. And if you think about it, that is really saying that weight gain is caused by people being lazy, and I don't think the evidence really supports that. What supports, the evidence really shows that weight gain is caused. It has underlying, deep-seated metabolic changes are required in order to be able to cause the types of weight gain that we're talking about. We're talking about really about obesity, gaining, a few stone, and this is really not caused by normal physiological, behavior. It's caused by going outside those parameters and going to extremes, and it's the Western diet that actually is the driver of that obesity. So I hope that was interesting. Remember to eat well, stay healthy and protect yourself. Do your own research. Make sure you go away and read up on all the things that I've said to make sure that the information is accurate, and do the same with any other information that you come across, because there's a lot of disinformation out there, and you have to really do your homework to make sure that you're not being misled in any of this. So I'll see you soon for another video, and in the meantime, please take care.